set it right. I think that's us.
Okay.
Yeah, well done.
Thank you. Well, welcome to this meeting of the East Lothian Integration Joint Board's Audit and Risk Committee on the 19th of September. This meeting is being recorded and will be made available as a webcast via the Council's website in order to allow the public access to the democratic process in East Lothian. East Lothian Council and NHS Lothian are data controllers under the Data Protection Act 2018, and data collected as part of the recording will be retained in accordance with the Council and NHS Lothian's record retention policies, and the webcast of this meeting will be publicly available for up to 6 months. I'll now deal with apologies and then the roll call of attendees. We have apologies from Councillor Bruce this morning, and I'll now do the roll call. Elizabeth Gordon.
Present.
Thank you. Fiona Ireland.
Present.
Lynn Jardine.
Present.
And David Binney.
Present.
Thank you. And we have officers present this morning as well: Claire Flanagan, Duncan Steenbank, Fiona Wilson and John Boyd. And are there any declarations of interest from members on any items? Nope. Lovely. Thank you. That's us ready to start the business, Chair.
Thank you, Fiona. So if we just look at our agenda for this morning, we have the first. You've done declarations, haven't you? Yes. Fiona did that. So the first item on our agenda is the minutes of the previous meeting, which was held on the 6th of June, which are here for approval. If I can just ask if there's any corrections or omissions from the minute in the first instance, or if everybody's comfortable with it. Claire?
Yeah, it was just really to make the committee aware. Obviously, at the last meeting, we considered the IJB's draft annual accounts, and the plan was that the final accounts would be coming back to today's Audit and Risk Committee for recommending them for the IJB meeting on Thursday, and then approval at the IJB and signing. And I suppose I just wanted to update the committee, and John might want to come in, that there's been a bit of a delay. We've had to push back the concluding of the accounts. Two reasons. There's been resource issues within Audit Scotland through a number of issues, whether it's been delays in other audits, staffing issues, and also Audit Scotland would like to conclude the testing work within East Lothian Council as one of the IJB's partners before finalising the IJB's annual accounts. So this means that the accounts will hopefully get concluded maybe late October, early November, and the plan would be that these would come to a future IJB business meeting for where the accounts would be presented. The annual audit report will be presented and the accounts would get signed off after that. It does mean that the Audit and Risk Committee probably will not, we didn't want to delay it to December Audit and Risk Committee because that feels really far away. So it would be this year that the accounts would go through one of the IJB business meetings only. And I'm not sure, John, hopefully I've captured everything. If there's anything else you wanted to add, being our audit director.
Yeah, thanks, Claire. So Claire really summarised it there. Just to make the committee aware, essentially, as part of our new appointment, we were really kicking off our audit cycle this year across all our audits about 3 months later than we would normally do. And as a result, we've had to sort of profile some of the audits and defer some of the audits, including the audit of East Lothian Council, in order for us to essentially fit it into the financial year the calendar year. Going forward, we're hoping to have our planning kicked off by the January this year, and therefore we'll be on the sort of front foot for next year. So really what we're aiming to do is trying to bring our delivery targets in for 23-24 audit. Just to really reassure members, we don't have any underlying concerns around the audit process for the IJB. We've already done the initial review of the accounts. It's really just ensuring that we've got the result and prioritising our resources to the audits we can complete, and we do testing at the council and the health board in order to give ourselves assurance that the numbers reported by the partners then are complete and accurate, that are reflected in the IJB's financial statements. So essentially it's deferring that process, is pushed back the audit cycle, but just really to reassure members there's nothing, it's not any reflection on the accounts of the IJB or the resources of the IJB. It's purely just an Audit Scotland, and that we have sort of plans in place then that for next year we should be following the sort of norm, or back to the kind of normal timelines and timetable for the delivery of the audit.
Thanks, Claire and John. Can I just clarify, because last time, Claire, and I think we're really taking this as a matter arising from the minute, but the last time you said that we got a letter of assurance, I think you called it, from the council. Have we had that? Is it just we've had that? It's just the audit element that we're waiting on. Is that, am I correct in that?
Yeah, we've received a letter from assurance from both partners, NHS Lothian and East Lothian Council, in line with normal processes. And I did check. I did ask John just if the letter of assurance was enough assurance to try and conclude the IJB audit. Just, I suppose, given I head off, so it would have been nice to have concluded the set of accounts. But unfortunately, it wasn't possible.
Yeah, no, that's. I just wondered if that was also a contributory factor or not. And in terms of the formality of the finalising, I appreciate that it'll now come to an IJB board meeting. Is there any? Does that contravene any of our requirements in terms of timelines for submission of our reports, our annual accounts, or anything, or are we still compliant with all of the?
Yeah, we'll still be in line with the legal deadline, and in terms of our IJB standing orders, we only have to take the accounts through one formal committee. I mean, we tend to take them through both Audit and Risk and the IJB, just because historically that's what we've always done, and I think it's good for both committees to get their chance to comment and discuss the documents. But we have done this before, whereby just in terms of timescales, we've maybe taken them through one committee only. So
no, I just wondered about the timeline more than anything. So we're still within the legal timeline, so that's fine.
We do always work to a September. We try to work to the end of September deadline, but I'm sure the legal deadline, which John will correct me, I'm sure that's the end of the calendar year.
Okay. Any other questions or comments on that fact that we're not having the accounts today? No. Okay.
And I suppose
thanks.
Just to say, Fiona, that apologies everybody. That's why the agenda is very, very light. Which might be. I don't think
everybody's thinking that's a bonus. John.
Yeah, and I should just reassure members. So, as it's I've always local government lead within Audit Scotland's Audit Services Group, and you're not alone in terms of IJBs and actually local authority accounts not being signed off. So the technically speaking, the statutory sign-off date is the end of September. However, there's a recognition that because of the delays really since COVID-19, there's a recognition that actually there'll be a number of bodies won't deliver that date, although the target sort of sign-off remains. But as auditors, essentially the impact of that is we're required to report where that's the case, and where it's essentially because of audit resource, we'll report that it's audit resource and make that clear within our external audit report that the reason why there was a delay in finalising the accounts. If it had been, a result of issues during the course of the audit, or resources at the organisation, or inability to prepare accounts, that would obviously be with different messaging within an annual audit report. But we'll make it clear in our external audit report that it's just really the audit resource availability. But you're not alone in terms of IJBs and local authorities.
Okay. And just finally, Claire, we will presumably just report to the IJB on Thursday that this is the case, just formally report to them that this is the case. Is that something you do on Thursday or I do on Thursday?
I can pick it up as part of there's a finance paper going anyway, so I can just make the committee aware as part of that.
That's great, thanks Claire. Okay, and nobody has any other questions on that. Okay. Okay, so in terms of the minutes, we're approving the minutes. Fiona, do we need to do anything? Oh, David.
Hi, sorry, I'm working from memory here, and it is a sort of matter arising. I think that about 4 meetings ago, we made an undertaking, and then about 2 meetings ago, we reiterated it. And that undertaking was that we would do an audit of the experience and competencies of the committee, and that would shape how the committee might be taken forward. I'd be quite interested to know what progress has been made.
We did indeed. I'm going to look to Claire or Duncan. Duncan, well, you were going to do some work around that, weren't you? Actually, it wasn't Claire.
Yeah, David. Apologies, and that is something that I've fallen down on. I'm intending to send out a questionnaire probably next month to each of the members of the committee to ask about their skills and experience, and I will then bring it back to the December committee with the findings from that. And apologies, that is I have not done it with the timescales I think I originally agreed to do so.
Okay, thanks, Duncan. We'll look forward to receiving that. Are there any other matters arising just before we conclude the minutes? No. So is everyone, Fiona, we don't need to do a roll call on the minutes, do we? Everybody's happy with the minutes? Otherwise, a few nods on the screen.
Yeah.
Yep, excellent. Okay, thank you. We'll move on. Okay, so we've done the minutes and approved them, and we've done matters arising from the minutes. So we've done 1 and 2. So we're now skipping to the IJB risk register, and Claire, I'm going to hand that over to you.
Yep, thank you. Thanks, Chair. So this is the report on the IJB strategic risk register for review by the committee today. And these are the risks rated 12 or above for reporting to the committee. And you'll see there's a matrix at Appendix 1 which explains the ratings. So the risks that should be considered all by the committee, and it's worth noting the following points since the last meeting. So in terms of risk 5220, which is demographic pressures, there's no change in this risk and the actions have remained ongoing. The next risk, which is risk 5486, which is around the council finance department being in business continuity measures. This risk rating has remained at a 12 for this update, but we have included the progress of the successful recruitment of a principal accountant within East Lothian Council's finance team. So hopefully we will start to see this risk reduce in future reports with that new appointment. Risk 3924, which is the financial resources may be insufficient for the IJB to deliver its strategic plan. This risk has been increased for this iteration of the risk register, so this has now been rated a 20, which is the highest risk now on the IJB's risk register. And within the actions, we've noted that the ongoing financial monitoring, and we make particular reference to the Q1 forecast, the financial information so we've received that from both partners, and this will be presented to the IJB at its meeting on Thursday this week. And I suppose that forecast is a significant projected overspend for the IJB at Q1, which is another reason why we've increased the risk rating. And we also just wanted to note that we're in ongoing discussions with East Lothian Council officers on the passporting across to the IJB any additional funding that the local authority received to support the local authority pay award settlement. In terms of the next risk, which is 5279, it's on the National Care Service. Again, no change in rating or risk. All we've noted within the progress is the recent joint announcement from COSLA and Scottish Government around partnership working around National Care Service, and we'll monitor that as more information comes to light. And then the final risk is risk 3925, which is our operational resources may be insufficient to deliver against the IJB strategic plan. This now has a risk rating of 12, which is why it's been reported back here today. And within the further progress and actions, we've included an action particularly around GP sustainability. And we also make reference to the recent discussion at the IJB development session, which was a presentation around primary care and also on prescribing. But obviously the GP sustainability is something that the IJB continues to monitor. And that's why it's referenced in the report today. And I'm happy to take any other discussion or any other thoughts on our register.
Okay. Elizabeth's got in there first, so Elizabeth.
Thanks. Thanks for that update, Claire. I had a couple of questions. The first one was about the 5486 risk about East Lothian Council Finance Department being in business continuity. Will the appointment of the new principal accountant mean that there'll be any change to the frequency of the financial reporting, or will it remain at the sort of less frequent, quarterly, which is obviously quite concerning?
Yeah, we are hopeful. We've not been told that definitively that the appointment will change the reporting cycle that's been put in place at the moment, but we are hoping with that additional resource, so that principal accountant is in supporting health and social care, and that's the part of their portfolio. So we are hoping that we can move back to our routine reporting, which is monthly reporting from the council. We just haven't been told that definitively yet.
Okay, thank you. And my other question was about 3924, and obviously mentioning that you're in discussion with still in discussion with East Lothian Council about this money not being transferred. I just wondered, has there been any feedback? And I know that we as an IJB weren't alone in experiencing this issue. Has the Scottish Government been putting any pressure on local authorities to pass the money across, or has that not happened?
I don't think there's been a specific involvement from Scottish Government around the passporting across of funding. I think there's through the various networks, whether it's local authority directors of finance meetings, COSLA, dialogue through the CFO section 95 officers network. We continue to have ongoing dialogue, but there's not been direct involvement from government. But I must say that the discussions this year with East Lothian Council are much more positive around. I think there's a recognition that by not passporting across funding that's there to support all budgets, including delegated budgets to the IJB, it's really just starting to increase the level of projected overspend, which ultimately then the financial risk after IJB reserves defaults back to partners. So I think there's now a much more, I suppose, a better knowledge around how that cycle works, and the discussions. I mean, Fiona can correct me, but the discussions with officers anyway feel a lot more positive around the passporting across of that funding.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions from anyone? I've got a couple that Elizabeth hasn't asked, which were also on my list. Okay, so Claire, against 5486, I suppose our question has to be, what are the plans to replace you, and whether we'll have a gap in that CFO role for any time, and that's maybe for Fiona Wilson to answer. I don't know.
I can answer it. So so we won't have a gap because we have asked David King, who some of you will know, to step in on a temporary basis, and we met with him at the tail end of last week just to check that he is content to do that. I hadn't met David King up until last week, and but he previously was in Claire's job before Claire and covered her maternity leave, so he would do the CFO role for East. It is made slightly complicated, stroke muddy, because Claire obviously covers 2 IJBs, and there's a different plan around the Midlothian IJB that has not been properly secured yet, so it makes it difficult for us to then go out on our own around job description, and it would have to be written differently, and also there would be a resourcing to that as well, because currently NHS Lothian pays for all of Claire's post, and she's got a business partner element linked to her post as well. So I suppose in the short term, David King has kindly said he would offer to cover the CFO role, and being quite flexible around that, we will also have Chris King, not related, to support as well from a kind of business partner NHS support, and David Henderson from a council perspective supporting.
Sorry, I'm smiling because poor David gets pulled out of retirement.
I think he enjoys it actually, Fiona.
Okay, so at least we won't have a gap, which is the key.
We won't have a gap. I guess I suppose it's just emphasising the where we go. We are waiting. We're waiting on that confirmation from mid.
Okay, and we probably would we'll just check in on that, later on, just to see that we're not delaying this too long. And the risk that's been increased, 3925 from a 6 to a 12. This is really around recruitment and resource, I think, is it, Fiona, mainly as a concern?
Yeah, it is much more the kind of the operational side of the running the services, which ultimately impacts on the IJB.
Yep. I suppose it's a new one for us just to be looking at today, and I suppose I'm wondering if there's anything else that we need to be flagging at IJB or with the partners around what other actions to mitigate this one. Whether
it's quite a volatile one. It's quite a volatile one because it's definitely a risk that when we consider the risk register as officers to present here today, we do it does fluctuate in terms of the rating, just given the system that we work in.
Yep.
So
So I suppose but given that this is us looking at it as the IJB, and it's really, we have to keep that hat on and not get into the operational world. I suppose what we have to be assured of is around if this was derailing our strategic plan in any significant way, how would we be flagging that up into would that just come to an IJB business meeting?
Yes, or it would come. It would come at probably if it was that significant, it would come to the earliest committee.
Okay.
However, that's a nice segue actually, Fiona, because once a year we do have the partnerships risk register presented to the IJB, and we always originally planned that would be the December meeting. That the IJB would consider their IJB strategic risk register, but would also have a presentation on the HSCP operational risk register, and that might give the committee a bit more assurance around actually here's a bit more of the detail around what's happening and the mitigations put in place.
Okay, so that'll be our next meeting. So we'll be able to see whether there's been any shift in any of this, and keep it a close eye on it. Okay, that's helpful. Okay, back to Elizabeth then, David.
Sorry, my question was just bouncing back to the replacement chief finance officer point, and I just wondered, just for my own clarification, at the moment, obviously you mentioned that Claire's role is combined with Midlothian. Does that mean that if it isn't like that going forward, that we'll be seeking a part-time chief finance officer, or would their job be wrapped up with something else to make it a full-time position?
Yeah, no, very good point. I think where we would be looking to bring in, what else could we bring under that role to make it a full-time position rather than a part-time, because I am concerned it wouldn't attract a part-time person.
Yeah. And at the moment, does it include the chief risk officer role as well?
Well, Claire.
No, it doesn't at the moment, but that's
No.
there's definitely arrangements around other IJBs that there is the risk portfolio was put into the CFO portfolio, so that's it's something that Fiona and the team can consider around how they would like to structure that role.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the thing is, in terms of it, that helps to make it a bigger role, to make it more attractive. But at the same time, you have to weigh up the conflict of interest of having the CFO also as the chief risk officer, and whether that's something that can be managed. Okay, that's fine. That's helpful. I just want to understand that. Thank you.
Yep. Thanks, Elizabeth. And David?
Hi. A factual kind of bit, first of all. Am I right in thinking that the shortfall from the council was £225,000?
£250,000, David, was the reduced budget offer. Yeah.
Okay, £250,000. Thanks. The second unrelated bit is about pay and pay increases. How are we actually managing and anticipating that? Because the perception is that pay is increasing fairly substantially, but the resources coming forward to support that increase are substantially less. And does that suggest that there might need to be a specific risk, or are we comfortable that it's covered in the shortfall risk as stands?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's captured as in the overarching financial sustainability risk. Given this is the IJB's risk register, there is significant pay increases. So we have had on a health side the agenda for change, which is the terms and conditions that our health staff are on, has had a settlement that was high, and but funding came through from Scottish Government to support the additional costs associated with that pay deal. Similarly, within local authorities, obviously they had the settlement last year in 22-23. Unfortunately, the IJB was given some of the additional financial support from the council that the council received, but unfortunately that was reversed at Q3 period 9. So there was a bit of a fluctuation around the IJB's overall position. The local authority pay settlement for this financial year hasn't actually concluded yet. So the assumption around in the forecast is that it would is it a 5% settlement. Now we just need to watch where the local authority settlement does conclude. We, as an IJB, in terms of our financial plan, we were always looking to pick up a 3% pay uplift, similar to the way East Lothian Council were. What we're in dialogue with the council is that if they get additional funding from government to support anything over and above a 3%, that would the IJB's pay budgets get a share of that resource.
Thanks.
Okay, David. Okay, I think we'll probably have more discussion on that in your finance paper, Claire, at the IJB, in terms of the impact of all of that, because it's well set out in that.
Yeah.
Okay, and I think, David, are you comfortable that the risk 3924 financial resources may be insufficient to sustain the strategic plan at the moment covers the detail sufficiently, given that we're looking at this at the IJB level rather than an operational level? It might be when we see the operational risk register, there's more detail.
I'm content, thank you.
That's grand. Okay, thank you. Okay, so in terms of this paper, just let me jump back. We're noting the risks on the current risk register, we're particularly noting that there's been a new risk added to the IJB risk register, or the review that we look at, because it's reached a high, and we've considered whether any further risks need to be added to the register, and agreed that they're currently covering the issues. So we don't need to do a roll call, I think, Fiona, on that, because it's a noting and considering. So if
That's
everyone's
right.
comfortable, we can accept that paper as it stands, subject to all the conversations we've had. Okay, excellent. That's our agenda concluded. We don't have the opportunity for any other business, but I don't think there is any other business. But Claire, this will be your last Audit and Risk Committee, so I certainly would like to thank you for all your help and support in chairing this when I took it on. I can't remember if you were in post or whether it was David that was here at the time, but I was persuaded to do this, but you've been hugely helpful. I'm sure everybody agrees, and we will miss you from the IJB, but I know I'll still see you in Waverley Gate, which is great. But we wish you well in that new promoted post. Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, that's us.
Can you switch the recording off, Fiona?
I can. Well, I
Thank you.
can try.
Are you able to send that to Jennifer Jarvis? She usually puts it on the website, I think.